You know, we've all ordered food late at night, right? But have you ever stopped to think about the person bringing it to you? What if they were heading straight into a nightmare? Well, this is a true story, a really terrifying one about a college student named John. And let me tell you, his last delivery of the night was one he would never, ever forget.
I mean, just think about that for a second. It's the kind of question you see on a horror movie poster, not something you'd ever expect to happen in real life. But for John, this wasn't just a scary thought. A totally normal night was about to spiral into absolute, unimaginable terror.
So let's meet our guy, John. He's just a typical college kid, working a late-night delivery gig, trying to scrape together enough cash to get by. It's late, he's just finished a really long shift, and honestly, all he can think about is just getting home and crashing.
And he is literally about to clock out. It's 1 in the morning, the shop is technically closed, and the phone rings. The voice on the other end is weird, shaky, trembling. But he orders 4 large pizzas. Now look, a big order usually means a big tip, and John could really use the money. So against his better judgment, he says yes, he'll take it.
The address he gets isn't anywhere in town. It takes him way out, to the remote outskirts of the city, to that place where the streetlights and the sounds of traffic just kind of disappear. You can feel the vibe shift, as all the familiar roads turn into something much more quiet and isolated.
And then the pavement just ends. It turns into this rough, unpaved dirt track. Wild trees and bushes are clawing at the edges of the road, and there are absolutely no streetlights out here. Nothing. John is just surrounded by pitch-black darkness, with only his little scooter headlight cutting a tiny beam through it all. Finally, his GPS tells him he's there. He's arrived at this house. But man, it's not just any house. It's this old, crumbling place set way back in a patch of forest. It's completely dark, totally silent, and it seriously looks like no one's lived there for decades. Every single instinct in his body is screaming that something is very, very wrong here.
So what do you do in that situation, right? He's terrified. He pulls out his phone, tries to call his manager. Straight to voicemail. But he can't just leave. If he brings back 4 large pizzas, he could get fired. And in that moment, the fear of losing his much-needed job just barely wins out over the chilling fear of that house. He parks his bike. He decides to go in.
He walks up to the front door, and just as he does, a single dim light flickers on inside. He rings the bell. Waits. Nothing. He's about to turn around and leave, but then he hears it, that slow, unmistakable creak of a heavy door opening, all by itself. Against every sane instinct, he takes a breath and steps inside, calling out, "Hello? Pizza delivery?" into the empty hall.
He finds a room with 2 little girls inside, and they're just staring at him, not saying a word. At this point, he's more annoyed than scared, thinking it's a prank. He asks them where their parents are so he can get paid. And that is when everything changes. Their eyes suddenly turn a horrifying milky white. Their creepy silence shatters into this awful, menacing laugh as they both slowly raise their arms and point right behind him.
John whips around so fast he almost loses his balance. And standing right there, just inches behind him, is the figure of a woman, her face twisted in a silent scream. The shock is just instant and absolute. He doesn't even scream. He just drops everything. All 4 pizzas crash to the floor. There's no thought, no plan, just pure animal terror telling him to get out, to run. He sprints to his scooter, manages to kick it on, and just peels out of there. But he doesn't even get 50 feet down the dirt road before it sputters and dies. A flat tire. Stranded in the dark, he glances at his rearview mirror and his blood just runs cold. The woman and the 2 little girls, they're there, standing on the road, and they're slowly, deliberately walking towards him. He doesn't even think. He fumbles for his phone, somehow manages to dial 911, and just runs. He abandons the scooter and just bolts, plunging blindly into the dark woods, branches scratching his face. He finds the biggest tree he can and dives behind it, holding his breath, just praying they didn't see where he went. And then he hears it, faintly at first, then getting louder, the distant wail of police sirens. As soon as he hears those sirens, John scrambles back to the road. He's a mess, frantically trying to explain what happened. The police, they go in, they do a thorough search of that entire old house, and they find nothing. No woman, no little girls. The only evidence that anyone had been there at all
were the 4 pizzas scattered all over the floor and a single wild cat that hissed at them from the shadows.
But the story doesn't end there. The next day, after a little digging, John learns the horrifying truth about that house. It hadn't been occupied for 3 years, not since its last residents, a mother and her 2 young daughters, were all murdered inside its walls. John hadn't seen a prank. He had just tried to deliver a pizza to ghosts.
Yeah, it's no surprise that John quit his job right away. He could never go back to delivering pizzas, especially not at night. But the experience, it left a permanent scar. The memory of that night, of those white eyes and that silent, screaming woman, it still haunts him to this day.
So John survived. But the story isn't really over, is it? The spirits he met are still trapped in that house, their story unfinished. Because the police, they never actually found out who killed that family. Which leaves us with one final, chilling question. Who was the real monster in that house that night?